That's why you got that fez on. All right. Today, I'd like to welcome you all back to Rise of the Moors. I'll say this, and I've said it before, I love the name Rise of the Moors, but you literally can't disrespect it. Because if you do, you're disrespecting yourself. Why would you do that? Right? So today is part 2 of Res Judicata. The prophet said this is a Moorish divine national movement, as well as in the newspaper articles, he was explaining to the Moors that the Moorish Holy Temple of Science started off as a civic organization. So the reason why we target civics in law is because our people are being attacked via what is known as color of law. So we're taught in their school system that we're 14th Amendment citizens and that, in 1868, the 14th Amendment was constitutional and it reversed the decision of Dred Scott case, making so-called blacks so-called citizens of the United States, as well as the 15th Amendment making it so that so-called blacks can vote within the United States. Knowing that our people don't know that they're originally Aboriginal and indigenous to these lands, and we cannot be citizens of the United States because the United States is a collection of various European colonies. Right? So they teach us these things so that we become citizens by choice of their organizations. Because remember, in the Bible it says, Jesus said, it is written in your law that ye are gods. So since we're God, we have the right to choose if we want to be subject to someone or not. We have the right to choose if we want to be in slavery or not. Right? Now, here's an example. I know this is that controversial thing where Kanye West said slavery was a choice. It is, right? So let's imagine I'm the slave master, right? Let's say you're the slave, right? Let's just imagine. Let's just play pretend. If I slap the dog shit out of you and you don't slap me back, that's a choice. Get it? Because you as a man have the right to self-defense and self-preservation. That's a law of nature. That's why people say slavery is a choice. Right? So now that's out of the way. We are under attack via, again, what is known as color of law. By us thinking that we're citizens of the several states of the European Union, they've been enforcing their laws on us, which according to nature is a violation. But since we agree, according to nature, it's not a violation. Get it? As an example, monkeys don't hold elephants according to the monkey law. Get it? Monkeys abide by the laws of nature, and elephants abide by the laws of nature. But it's not one species law over another. Right? So internationally, the Chinese people don't get ruled by the Germans. They can make agreements, that's called international law, but beyond that, they abide by the laws of nature, and then they, within their own jurisdiction, within their own national government, their own free national government, the Chinese people create laws on how to best regulate them according to their customs, laws, religion, and culture, and the German people do the same. So the Germans can't then force their views, opinions, culture, ideology on the Chinese people. Get it? So subsequently, or what's been happening to us, is that these pale-skinned, various Europeans are enforcing their customs, laws, and traditions on us. That's the problem, right? So this is how these Europeans, these inquisitionists, are targeting our people. I would like for you to direct your attention to the board. This is dealing with energy. This was compiled in the Rex 84 plan, also known as the King Alfred plan, also known as the Executive Order 11490, dealing with how to eradicate so-called blacks and so-called minorities, which include so-called Hispanics, so-called Latinos, so-called Jamaicans, so-called Spanish people, etc., and so-called poor whites. So this is dealing with how to not only control them and their families for their entire lives, but also in an event of an uprising, how to exterminate them forever. Right? So it was recognized, right? Energy is recognized as the key to all activity on Earth. This is why in order for you to get inside of a car, which you call driving, they give you a license, which is permission. That's how they're controlling your energy, right? Because if you can't so-called drive, then you think in your mind, well, I can't go to work if I can't drive. And then since I can't drive to go to work, I can't get money to pay my bills to support my family. That's how they're controlling your energy. Tracking? Same thing with so-called student loans, so-called debt. Same thing with so-called credit cards, so-called debt. Same thing with so-called rent at your house. Same thing with a so-called mortgage on your home. They're controlling how much energy you can and cannot direct towards other things. They know by raising the cost of living, you're going to have a poor quality of life. Why? Because your energy is not directed at your family and its prosperity. It's directed towards them and working for them. That's how they're shifting natural science. That's how they're controlling us. That's modern day slavery. All right? Natural science is the study of the sources and control of natural energy, and social science. When you see social science, you're talking about society, which is studying human behavior. That's why every business has a what? Psychologist or psychiatrist. What are they called? Psychologists. I had it right the first time, right?
Psychiatrist and psychologist.
Yeah, psychologist. There you go. Theoretically expressed as economics. Right, so that paper that we have in our hand theoretically represents our energy output. So if you work for an hour and you get 5 notes, they're saying this amount of labor and this amount of time should produce this much paper. That's what that's saying. So theoretically expressed as economics is a study of the sources and control of social energy. Both are bookkeeping systems, mathematics. So when we talk about gentrification, we see that these various European organizations called corporations will claim a plot of land, leave it abandoned, raise the property value. So now all the other properties around have to raise their value in order to be competitive, knowing that we can't afford this stuff. That's how they're enforcing gentrification. Right? Therefore, mathematics is the primary energy science because the amount of so-called paper you have on hand reflects your energy, theoretically. And the bookkeeper can be king if the public can be kept ignorant of the methodology of the bookkeeping. Meaning our people will complain about gentrification but can't explain it. Since you can't explain it, right? If you're sick and you have a sickness and you go to the doctor and say, fix me, if he can't explain what's wrong with you, then he can't fix you. Get it? So if you can't explain what's happening to you, then you can't fix this. You can't fix the problem. All science is merely a means to an end. The means is knowledge. That's why they're trying to keep us ignorant. The end is control. Beyond this remains only one issue. Who will be the beneficiary, meaning who will be in control? In 1954, this was the issue of primary concern. Although the so-called moral issues were raised, in the view of the law of natural selection, meaning nature, it was agreed that a nation or world of people who will not use their intelligence are no better than animals who do not have intelligence. Any questions on that? So if you burn yourself touching an oven and you keep touching it, well, get it? Such people are beasts of burdens and stakes on the table by choice and consent. Again, slavery is a choice. Even if you think that we were brought over here on some slave ships, you had the choice of jumping off, didn't you? And before you got on the ship, you had the choice of fighting back, didn't you? Right? Because last time I checked, in the religious books, it tells you oppression is worse than death. So how's that not a choice? Right? Consequently, in the interest of future world order, peace, and tranquility, it was decided to privately wage a war against the American public with an ultimate objective of permanently shifting the natural and social energy wealth of the undisciplined and irresponsible many into the hands of the self-disciplined, responsible, and worthy few. In order to implement this objective, it was necessary to create, secure, and apply new weapons which, as it turned out, were a class of weapons so subtle and sophisticated in their principle of operation and public appearance as to earn for themselves the name silent weapons. In conclusion, the objective of economic research, as conducted by the magnets of capital, banking, and the industries of commodities, goods, and services, is the establishment of an economy which is totally predictable and manipulatable. In order to achieve a totally predictable economy, the low-class elements of society must be brought under total control. What are you talking about? Us. I.e., they must be housebroken, trained, and assigned a yoke and long-term social duties from a very early age before they have an opportunity to question the propriety of the matter. In order to achieve such conformity, the lower class family unit must be disintegrated by a process of increasing preoccupation of the parents, which don't we all suffer from that? Our parents were always busy. They couldn't raise us, right? And the establishment of government-operated daycare centers for the occupationally orphaned children. Or we're forced to go to their schools, right? So we see how this is enforced today. This has been enforced for years, since at least 1902. Now pay attention to this. The quality of education given to the lower class must be of the poorest sort, so that the mote of ignorance isolating the inferior class from the superior class is and remains incomprehensible to the inferior class. With such an initial handicap, even bright lower class individuals have little, if any, hope of extracting themselves from their assigned lot in life. This form of slavery is essential to maintain some measure of social order, peace, and tranquility for the ruling upper class. Descriptive introduction of the silent weapon. So now they're explaining to you what the weapon is, how it works, what it does. Right? Everything that is expected from an ordinary weapon is expected from a silent weapon by its creators, but only in its own manner of functioning. It shoots situations instead of bullets, propelled by data processing instead of chemical reaction, originating from bits of data instead of grains of gunpowder, from a computer instead of a gun, operated by a computer programmer instead of a marksman, under the orders of a banking magnate instead of a military general. Now let me explain that, right? So they say they shoot situations, correct? Here's a situation. You get pulled over by the police. That's the situation, right? Now let's add context to that. They state in their color of laws that you need to have a license. So now they say, what's your name and social and birthday, right? They type that into a data center to see if you have one or not. And if you don't, take your car, lock you up, make you pay a fine. That's one situation. Right? You paying the fine to the bank is that banking magnet that they just explained. Then putting your name and birthday into the cop's computer, that's the computer program. Right? See that? Originating bits of data instead of grains of gunpowder from a computer. See that? We'll see how this is implemented every day. Right? It makes no obvious noises because the public think you need a license. Right? Causes no obvious physical or mental injuries because we're taught to suck it up. And does not obviously interfere with anyone's daily social life. Meaning, so-called black people say that happens to us every day. What's that saying from, what was it? That movie with Cameron? People die every day, B, right? As if that shit's normal. Our people get pulled over every day. That don't make it normal. Right? So them doing that to us and us growing up in that environment, it's not an obvious injury because we're just used to it. Right? You see how that's working? We sure? Great. Yet, it makes an unmistakable noise, in quotation marks, causes unmistakable physical and mental damage, and unmistakably interferes with a daily social life, i.e., unmistakable to a trained observer who knows what to look for. The public cannot comprehend this weapon, and therefore cannot believe that they are being attacked and subdued by a weapon. The public might instinctively feel that something is wrong, but that is because of the technical nature of the silent weapon. They cannot express their feelings in a rational way or handle the problem with intelligence. Therefore, they do not know how to cry for help and do not know how to associate with others to defend themselves against it. When a weapon is applied gradually, the public adjusts, adapts to its presence, and learns to tolerate its encroachments on their lives until the pressure, psychological via economic, becomes too great, they crack up. So they're putting so much economic pressure on our families that we lose our minds. So who's causing homelessness? Them. Tracking? I know you more see that we are under attack, right? Now, let's read this as well. Here's their table of strategies. Hold on. Table of strategies. Do this to get this. Keep the public ignorant to get what? Less public organization. Do this. Maintain access to control points for feedback. Required reaction to outputs, prices, and sales. Create preoccupation, which what? Lowers defense. Attack the family unit, which what? Control of the education of the young. Give less cash and more credit. What does that do? More self-indulgence and more data. Which when you apply for a credit card, you're giving them information, right? That's the data that they need. The U.S. Census Bureau, right? How many people live in your family? How many people in your household? Are you the head of the household? Are you married? Are you single? That's that data, right? Attack the privacy of the church, which destroys faith in this sort of government. Social conformity, computer programming simplicity. They already know that most of our people are watching BET, so they already expect how we're going to act, and we're going to conform to that. Minimize the tax protest. Maximum economic data. Minimum enforcement problems. Stabilize the consent. Simplicity coefficients. Tighten control of variables. Simpler computer input data. Greater predictability. Meaning, they do something to us, and they already know we're just going to march and pray. Establish boundary conditions. Problem, simplicity, solutions of differential and difference equations. Proper timing, less data shift and blurring. Maximize control, minimum resistance to control. Collapse of economy, destroy the faith of the American people in each other. Now here's their diversion and the primary strategy. Experience has proven that the simplest method of securing a silent weapon and gaining control of the public is to keep the public undisciplined and ignorant of the basic system principles on one hand, while keeping them confused, disorganized, and distracted with matters of no real importance on the other hand. Hence, Vanity Magazine. What does vanity mean? Uselessness. Right? That song by Bob Marley, I don't want to wait in vain. I don't want to wait for nothing. Right? Oh, Kim Kardashian did A, B, C, D, and E. What does that have to do with your life? Oh, so-and-so won this ring in this sport event. What does that have to do with your life? How are your children benefiting from that? How are you benefiting from that? Oh, this new video game came out. How's that benefiting your children? How's that benefiting your life? Oh, let's go to Comic-Con this year. How's that benefiting your life? Now, I'm not saying these things are bad. I'm saying too much of anything is bad.
And they're not priority. That's the problem, that we make that our priority.
Oh, Jordan came out with a new sneaker again. Mm-hmm. I'm going to wait in line for 3 days.
For something that I have 3 pairs of.
No, 20 pairs of.
That I've been buying for the last 15 years.
Right. So how is this achieved? This is achieved by disengaging their minds, sabotaging their mental activities, providing a low-quality program of public education in mathematics, logic, systems design, and economics, and discouraging technical creativity. Oh, you're a nerd. That's a bad thing. Oh, you're weird. That's a bad thing. Look up the definition, the etymology of weird. And we already know we got a poor quality of education in their so-called schools. So we don't even need to talk about that. What else do they do? They get us to engage in our emotions, increasing their self-indulgence and their indulgence in emotional and physical activities. Any questions on that? I'll just do that again. Engaging their emotions, increasing their self-indulgence and their indulgence in emotional and physical activities by unrelenting emotional apprehensions and attacks. Mental and emotional rape. By way of constant barrage of sex, violence, and wars in the media, especially the TV and the newspapers. By giving them what they desire in excess, junk food for thought, and depriving them of what they really need. Rewriting history and law and subjecting the public to the deviant creation, thus being able to shift their thinking from personal needs to highly fabricated outside priorities. These preclude their interest in and discovery of the silent weapons of social automation technology. The general rule is that there is profit in confusion. The more confusion, the more profit. Therefore, the best approach is to create problems and then offer solutions. Isn't that exactly what they do?
Lock people up and then, but we have a bail bondman.
Mm-hmm. So we have an attorney fee. We have a public defender fee. Mm-hmm. Diversion summary. Media. Keep the public attention diverted away from real social issues and captivated by matters of no real importance. Any questions on that? Great. Schools. Keep the young public ignorant of real mathematics, real economics, real law, and real history. Entertainment. Keep the public entertained below a 6th grade level. Anyone confused on that? Work. Keep the public busy, with no time to think back on the farm with the other animals. Consent is the primary victory. Slavery is a choice, right? Right? A silent weapon system operates upon data obtained from a docile public by legal, but not always lawful force. Any questions on that? Much information is made available to silent weapon system programmers through the Internal Revenue Service. Don't believe me? Google this. House Resolution 25, Fair Tax Act of 2019, submitted to the floor of Congress by so-called Congressman Woodall, January 3rd, 2019. Congress.gov. You tell me what they said about the IRS. This information consists of the enforced delivery of well-organized data contained in federal and state tax reforms, collected, assembled, and submitted by slave labor, provided by taxpayers and employers. Furthermore, the number of such forms submitted to the IRS is a useful indicator of public consent, an important factor in strategic decision-making. Other data sources are given in short list of inputs. Consent coefficients, numerical feedback indicating victory status, psychological basis. When the government is able to collect tax and seize private property without just compensation, it is an indication that the public is ripe for surrender and is consenting to enslavement and legal encroachment. A good and easily quantified indicator of harvest time is the number of public citizens who pay income tax despite an obvious lack of reciprocal or honest service from the government. Any questions on that? So when the so-called government shut down because of lack of funding, and our people have been paying them 40% of their monthly earnings, what are you talking about? So you're telling me we've been paying for nothing? Not just that, hold on. We've been paying city, state, federal taxes for how long? And there's still potholes in the street? That's an obvious indicator that they're not doing crap to help us. But what they say? You don't pay your taxes, you're going to jail. To get you to do what? Within your own mind, agree to paying them. Slavery is a choice. Now, back to res judicata. Because they're using legal but not lawful methods to encroach on our lives. So guess what we should use to defend ourselves? Lawful methods, right? Now, the reason why I brought up earlier that this is a divine and national movement started as a civic organization is because you have to be instructed, not necessarily you have to be instructed, but in the present condition that we're in, a lot of us need to be instructed on which laws apply to us and which don't, right? So you're being informed of which laws you can use in your defense, right? So the reason why this is a divine and national movement is because it starts with your information, which affects your mind, which is divine, right? Then since you know these laws, they affect you nationally, which is physical. Then you're supposed to teach other people, unite, organize, protect yourselves, and enforce these laws. That's the movement. Divine and national movement. So when you hear more say this is only a spiritual fight, they're lying to you. Because they had to make you incompetent first. So yes, they did initially attack you spiritually to get you physically. So this is not just a spiritual fight. It's also a physical one, right? Because when they pull you over, they're not just talking to your spirit, are they? They're talking to your physical body, right? They're putting their hands on you, right? Because last time I checked, you can't touch spirit. But since our spirit is clothed in this flesh, they can touch your flesh. Right? And it's a principle of nature They have the right to self-preservation. Watch the Discovery Channel. You'll see the lioness protecting her cubs all day. You see gorillas protecting their young all day. You see other nationals fighting for their freedom, physically fighting for their freedom. What do the Moors do? Sit back and do nothing. We say this is only a spiritual fight. Allah got this. When in our holy books it says Allah's in you. Get it? So we're hiding behind our fake spirituality because fake spirituality because we're afraid to die. How are you afraid to die? When in your holy book it says death is no enemy to man. Meanwhile, other nations are sacrificing their lives for their freedom. What are we afraid of? Especially since we're so spiritually connected to our ancestors and shit like that. So what are we afraid of? Right? We're tracking, right? We get it? We see the connection. Are we sure? Because this is not just a spiritual fight. It is not. If it was, we would not be on the plane of manifest. Now would we? We would be in the spirit plane chilling because it's a spiritual battle. Get it? Are we sure? Any questions? Any additions?
We're literally on the plane where you think things into, like, all things are made up of atoms and matter, and they get information on what they're supposed to be from thought. So this is the physical plane. They're putting their physical hands on us.
So it doesn't make sense for us to try to escape because we're afraid and say that this is only a spiritual battle. Rome is a war machine. So what? These other nationals are fighting. In fact, there was a Buddhist monk in the 1900s who burned himself in the middle of the street in protest of the United States spreading democracy in Asia. To show you, you thought we was afraid? We're going to sit here and burn ourselves in your face to show you we're not afraid of you. And what did the prophet say? These Europeans ain't going to stop until they look death in the face. Now, guess where Christianity is not? Right where that Buddhist monk burned himself. To show these inquisitionists, we ain't afraid of you.
That's like when they were having infighting, England tried to conquer France, and France burned the whole city down. Mm-hmm. They're like, you can't have, if you're going to come over here, you ain't going to have nothing. Mm-hmm. That's how bad we don't want you. Which is, it was still, they're still a part of the same party, but now France actually has a voice within that party.
So let me try to, because I know my energy was up and a lot of people can't handle that. So now, not any of you, I'm saying there might be some viewers who get, don't say that comes to violence, right? Islam means peace. That's what it means, right? Moors are for what? Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, correct? And our prophet said, when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Right? Who invokes justice? Allah. Who is Allah? The people. So if these Europeans keep killing us on the street and we don't do anything, then we're accepting. That's exactly what that means. And guess what they're going to continue to do? Kill us on the street. Why? Because they know these niggers think this is only a spiritual fight. So all they're going to do is march and pray and sing kumbaya, holy moly macaroni. We'll see better days when we die. Therefore, abandoning our children. We have to suffer because of our own inactivity. That's what these Europeans know about us. That's what we need to know about ourselves. Right? So when I say self-defense, I'm not talking about violence. I'm talking about self-defense. Just like China has a military to protect their national interests, we should have one too. But since we don't like the word military, we'll say national security force. Because everyone thinks, whoa, the Moors have the military, whoa! Even Moors think that's a bad thing. So you're telling me, if the Europeans have a SWAT team at your door, you don't want more there to help you out? That's what you're telling me? You're telling me Europeans kicking down your door looking for a plan. You don't want no help? You're telling me Europeans will have 5 policy enforcers for just you in a car on the side of the road, and you don't want to call no one for help? You're telling me these Europeans will admit in the FBI papers and CIA records that they're assassinating our leaders like Malcolm X, and you don't think we need security? That's what you're telling me? They're killing our people left and right. You're telling me we don't need security. Does that make sense? Hell no, that doesn't make sense. So again, this is not just a spiritual fight. It's a physical one too. So, res judicata, so we can learn how to protect ourselves mentally, with the aim of teaching our people and then coming together collectively to protect ourselves physically, which is a right of nature, self-preservation. Let's deal with payment. My computer loads. Not responding.
If anybody watching thinks Jamal needs to get a new computer, shout it out in the comment section.
It's working, so shut up. Payment. Now, the reason why I'm talking about payment is because, again, they shoot those situations at us to bring out the destruction of our lives, right? In the Constitution, it says only gold and silver coin can be used as payment. So what they've done in 1913 to counter the actions of Prophet Noble Ali, who bankrupted them because the Prophet was teaching the Moors, use all that gold and silver that you have and only trade it amongst each other, which cuts the Europeans out. Now, since we're dealing with the laws of nature, right? If you're my son and she's my daughter, right? And you're also my son, and I'm always speaking kind words to you, right? And I'm speaking negatively to you, right? Both of you are getting my energy. If I just ignore you, you ain't getting nothing. That's going to cause more psychological and emotional damage than any negative. Okay? So by us not giving these Europeans energy, that bankrupted them. Because it's more of us than them. Therefore, we can put out more energy than they can. Tracking? That's why the goal is to get us to think we're their citizens, so we give them our energy. Right? So they took away the gold and silver. They print as much paper as they want, and they have us working for that, which means what? They control our energy now. Yes.
Also, when they put everybody on the euro, well, put Europe on the euro, every other country, when they trade debt from country to country, make exchanges, they transfer it into USD to give to the next country. Because at one time, the United States hold the most amount of gold in the world. But when they took away the gold standard, the United Nations still kept the basic rule that if you're going to transfer wealth or debt from country to country, it's in USD. So not only do they have a thumb on us, they have a thumb on everyone else, which is why China's going back to gold so that they can change that. And Trump said himself on the news, how could the United States be in debt if we print the money? They print the currency that pays the debt for every nation. So that we're like in that kind of situation.
Which, if you doubt anything she just said, go again to congress.gov, search House Resolution 5404 of March 22nd, 2018, which was introduced in 2018. And that same bill, not with the same number, was introduced this year, dealing with determining the value of the USD in gold. All right, so if you want to research. So now, payment. Money, this is according to law. In usual and ordinary acceptation, it means gold, silver, or paper money, meaning gold or silver certificates, used as circulating medium of exchange and does not embrace notes, which means it does not mean Federal Reserve notes. So that stuff that you have in your wallet is not money. It is a medium of exchange that they're using to control your life. So it does not embrace notes, bonds, evidences of debt, or other personal real estate. So if you have a so-called mortgage, that is not proof that they gave you money. Therefore, when you're challenging the mortgage, or you're challenging the student loan, or you're challenging the credit card debt, or whatever, anyone claiming that they gave you something, they have to prove that they gave you gold or silver coin. Because remember, contracts must have legal consideration. Legal consideration is something of value. Both parties have to agree that that thing is of value. So if you say Federal Reserve note has no value, and I do, well, then we can't agree to that medium of exchange. There's definition of note. A note is a unilateral instrument containing an express and absolute promise of the signer to pay to a specified person or order or bearer a definite sum of money at a special time. And when you search Title 12, subsection 411 of the United States Codes, the United States themselves said they're going to pay all the obligations of the Federal Reserve note, meaning all debts are already paid. Right? A note is an abstract, a memorandum, an informal statement in writing. A treasury note is a note or bill issued by the Treasury Department by the authority of the United States government and circulating as money. A promissory note, is an engagement, a promise or engagement in writing to pay a specified sum at a time therein limited or on demand or at sight to a person therein named or to his order or bearer. It is a written promise made by one or more to pay another or order or bearer at a specified time, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to keep reading. Here's the definition of contract. A promissory agreement between two or more persons that creates, modifies, or destroys a legal relation. It is an agreement upon sufficient consideration to do or not to do a particular thing. Any questions? Great. A deliberate engagement between competent parties. Is an infant competent? So can an infant or minor be a contract to a birth certificate? So can you then authenticate that birth certificate and then claim to be the beneficiary or authorized representative or executive officer or whatever? Great. So again, the contract is a deliberate agreement between competent parties upon a legal consideration to do or abstain from doing some act. Here's the definition of consideration. Consideration is not to be confounded with motive. Consideration means something which is of value in the eye of the law. According to law, money is only gold and silver, right? So according to law is or are Federal Reserve notes consideration? Nope. Moving from the plaintiff either to benefit to the plaintiff or determined to the defendant. Consideration. Nothing is consideration that is not regarded as such by both parties. Meaning both people have to agree that they're using Federal Reserve notes as a medium of exchange, which if you read most mortgage contracts, it does not say Federal Reserve note, it says USD. According to the Constitution, what is USD? Gold and silver. So according to law, they can't force you to pay no so-called mortgage and so-called Federal Reserve notes because you can't pay anything with a promise to pay. And you didn't agree that Federal Reserve notes are going to be used as a medium of exchange as lawful consideration, did you? And if you think you did, you might want to read that mortgage again because you didn't. because I read several mortgages and they don't say Federal Reserve note not once. Consideration is a price, and consideration, though sometimes the same, are not always identical. Illegal consideration is an act which, if done, or a promise which, if enforced, would be prejudicial to the public interest. Legal consideration is one recognized or permitted by the law as valid and lawful, as distinguished from such as are illegal or immoral. The term is also sometimes used as the equivalent to good or sufficient consideration. Pay, to discharge a debt. To deliver to a creditor the value of a debt, either in money or in goods for his acceptance. Now here's some res judicata. I'll scroll down. This is dealing with the power of Congress to coin money. It's from this case right here, United States Supreme Court, legal tender case, 1870. Which you can just go to librarycongress.org, I think. Click on duplication services and request this document. United States Supreme Court, legal tender case, etc. Dated 1870, number 43, decided December 1st, 1870. So this is in regards to Federal Reserve notes, Treasury notes, and gold and silver coins. Okay.
Shout out if Jamal needs a new computer.
Oh, look, Pat, you didn't know that. Pay, verb, to discharge a debt, to deliver to a creditor the value of a debt, either in money or in goods for his acceptance. Because remember, legal consideration has to be agreed by both parties. So if I say my laptop is worth $15,000, and you say, hey, here's 3 rocks, I have to agree to that.
Your laptop is worth 3 rocks. And somebody said Islam, why you getting a new laptop?
It works.
If you said $1,500, I said no.
This is more stuff.
Wait, what? Can you go back to what you're reading again? I missed it. The case? No, your laptop can't handle it. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Again, it's dealing with Federal Reserve notes, Treasury notes, FRNs, and gold and silver. No power has been expressly conferred upon Congress by the Constitution to make the Treasury notes of the government a legal tender between private individuals in discharge of pre-existing debts, but must be admitted. Money is used in the Constitution in 2 senses. In the second subdivision of the section relating to the power of Congress, the Constitution speaks of the power to borrow money, and the word must be used in the larger sense of strict money, or of anything received instead. Which, when you go to the law book, they say money in its strict, this is what they just said, right? In technical sense means coined gold or silver. But in the 5th subdivision of that section, which gives Congress power to coin money and regulate the value thereof and of foreign coins, it must be evident that Congress referred only to metallic money. Is that paper in your wallet metal? No. So is it money? No. According to who? Congress. From time immemorial, meaning beyond memory, in all countries, not just the United States, because again, the United States is a country. In all ages of the world, the precious metals have been the medium of exchanges and the strict monies. The value of these metals has been designated by a stamp upon them indicating their fineness and weight. That is, indicating the value at which the coins were rated. When the coins have possessed the value indicated, they have passed from hand to hand as of that value. When they have been found not to possess that value, they have, except within very narrow limits, failed to so pass. Not only has money meant metallic money, but upon looking at the public history of the times, which this court has established as a proper guide to the construction of the Constitution, we find that in the history of the country, there was no period in which money was more distinctly understood and meant to be hard money than the period when the Constitution was framed and adopted. So when the Constitution was written, when they were talking about money, what were they talking about? Gold and silver coins, not paper. Yes, just like that. Which you can get gold and silver coins at Admex.com. We should be sponsored by them. Right? Its framers had just passed through all the horrors of an unredeemed paper currency. The history of that currency had been, within the view of those who stake their property on the public faith, always freely given and grossly violated. The mischiefs of the various experiments that had been made were fresh in the public mind and had excited general disgust. Within the bills of the government, unredeemed indeed, became at least so hopelessly beyond redemption as to be entirely given up as worthless, what's happening in Venezuela right now. Their paper is what? Worthless. It always has been. It's just now the people recognize that it is. Which means what? That energy, that value is based on what the people give it, not it itself. The country had returned for circulation to a specie currency, to absolute money having an intrinsic value, and neither had nor wished any other currency. But the context, as well as the word itself, shows that the power is confined to metals, which means Congress cannot make paper. This grant is not a grant to create money, but simply to coin money, a power that can be exercised only on money that admits of being coined. That is, a bare power to strike on it, which was a phrase used in the Articles of Confederation as the equivalent of to coin money. It was from those articles that the power to coin money and regulate the value thereof was transferred to the existing Constitution. And that this provision only, 79 U.S. 457-466, gave Congress power to strike coin and regulate its alloy and value, was declared at the time and undisputed. The Federalist, number 43, tells us the right of coining money, which is here taken from the states, was left in the hands by the Confederation as a concurrent right with that of Congress, under an exception in favor of the exclusive right of Congress to regulate the alloy and value. In this instance, also, the new provision is to improve on the old, whilst the alloy and value dependent on the general authority. A right of coinage in the particular states would have no other effect than to multiply expensive mints and diversify the forms and weights of the circulating pieces. Treasury notes have, as substance, no appreciable value. Treasury notes have, as substance, No value. Any questions on that?
I got it.
Yeah.
Is that because like the treasury doesn't like really do anything real out here?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's because it's paper and ink.
Right.
So since things were measured by weight, right?
Right.
Depending on how much a horse weighed, you trade that much in silver or gold. That's why it's weight, because it's actually something of a mass. It's actually real. Right? That's why gold and silver coin is used as mediums of exchange. Because someone had to work physical labor to mine that gold and silver. Therefore, if you find a bigger piece, it has more value because you put hours and hours of digging. So by weight, it holds more. Because it's literally heavy. Literally.
Also,
So if you weigh this laptop in a certain amount of ounces, you would say, all right, it's this much in gold, this much in silver, this much in copper.
also everything else in the world, they keep like a bar of 1 pound of gold and 1 pound of silver in various different places, and they measure them every few years. And that sets the new standard. Everything is recalibrated to what that weight is because it's matter, so it still changes, the weight changes slightly. But so if you say something's a pound, that pound is measured off of gold and silver pounds. So that's how much the weight is fixed.
Why is it a pound in euro?
Like fun
So
facts.
treasury notes are not declared to be and do not purport to be of any value as substance. They are not stamped with any intrinsic value. They are not, so far as they possess value, things at all, but only things in action. That's why when we say it's not money, they're confused because they say, well, I use it every day. Because you're using it. That doesn't mean it has real value. Yeah, they exist in fact, but that doesn't mean that they're legitimate. No. You're right. The material holds the evidence of the promise, but it is not, the material holds the evidence of the promise, but it is the promise, and the promise alone, which is and which purports to be of value. So it's the promise to pay you later that's the value, not the thing itself. You've been living your life on promises. That sound logical to you? So we've been working at these jobs, and they've been giving us paychecks, which are really promises to give us gold and silver later. How many of y'all been paid? Working 9 to 5s.
I've never been paid in my life.
They give you promises to pay you though, right? One dash of the pen across the signature of the Treasurer of the United States at their foot, and the note is not a note. And the note is not a treasury note. Not a thing in action. Not a matter which bears the government stamp of value. Not $10 at all, but a worthless rag of paper, once used to hold a promise, now canceled. If, therefore, money, in the phrase to coin money, would be considered as embracing other substances besides those precious metals alone in use throughout all the world as coin, nonetheless would it remain that to utter promises to pay money would not be coining or to coin money. Argue the United States Supreme Court, legal tender case, 1870. United States Supreme Court. What's the highest court in the United States? The United States Supreme Court. So all these Moors telling you, just pay your mortgage. What are they telling you? That they're dirty. That they're sellouts. That they're so-called paid agents of the state and so-called federal government. That's what they're telling you. But in their appearance, it doesn't seem that way because of the technical nature of this silent weapon. You tracking? in U.S. versus Long, an informed jury found Mr. Long not guilty of a willful failure to file a tax return. In Don E. Williams versus the Commissioner of the Internal Revenue Service, the Supreme Court stated that a note, even when payable on demand and fully secured, is still only a promise to pay and not payment. Which type in Don E. Williams versus the IRS Commissioner in libraryofcongress.gov duplication services, and the Library of Congress will give you that court case. At letter E, it states just that. Which, if you come on down the Riseofthemoors Temple, you got the documents from the Library of Congress here already. Congress had no express authority to issue treasury notes, which makes it what? Unconstitutional, which is unlawful. What is a bill of credit? What did the Constitution mean to forbid it? In its enlarged and perhaps its literal sense, the term bill of credit may comprehend any instrument by which a state engages to pay money at a future day, thus including a certificate given for money borrowed or promised to pay, or a promissory note, excuse me. To emit bills of credit conveys to the mind the idea of issuing paper intended to circulate through the community for its ordinary purposes as money, which paper is redeemable at a future day. This is the sense in which the terms have always been understood. Such a medium has been always liable to considerable fluctuation. Its value is continually changing, and these changes, often great and sudden, expose individuals to immense loss, are the sources of ruinous speculations, and destroy all confidence between man and man. Don't believe me? Look up congress.gov, House Resolution 5404, Representative Mooney of West Virginia stated that the United States dollar has lost 96% of its purchasing power since the year 1913, and since they removed the gold standard, it helped cause what? The Great Depression. Isn't that what they just said? To cut up this mischief by the roots, a mischief which was felt through the United States and which deeply affected the interest and prosperity of all the people declared in their Constitution that no state should emit bills of credit, which means issuing paper as a circulating medium. If the prohibition means anything, if the words are not empty sounds, it must comprehend the emission of any paper medium. The history of paper money has been referred to for the purpose of showing that its great mischief consists in being made a tender, and that therefore the general words of the Constitution may be restrained to a particular intent. It has been long settled that a promise made in consideration of an act which is forbidden by a law is void. It will not be questioned that an act forbidden by the Constitution of the United States, which is the supreme law of the land, is against law in reference to paper money as a circulating medium. That which is not permitted to do directly cannot be legalized by any change of names or forms. Acts done in fraudum legis are acts in violation of law. Craig versus State of Missouri. Which you'll see in that case, that State of Missouri issued certificates to pay Craig and said, well, you owe us $99 now. And the court said, no, you don't, because you gave him nothing of real value. A debt is not paid by the giving of a note. Nolan Company versus Maryland. So if these banks claim to give you notes, since it does not pay a debt, it cannot be used to establish a debt.
What's the etymology of bill?
You have to look it up.
A bill, because that's the same thing as $1 bill, $2 bill.
Well, a bill is a debt. A dollar is something of value, so it can't be something of value and a debt at the same time.
What I was trying to say is they're saying they're giving bills.
Yeah.
All the bills.
Yeah, it's debt.
Yeah, yes. It tells you what it is. Bill.
Yeah.
The etymology of bill is
Yeah.
debt. Debt is debt.
Exactly. A note is only a promise to pay and not payment. Fidelity Savings Bank versus Grimes. A check payable in notes is an altered instrument and void. A check payable in notes is an altered instrument and void. So when these people give you parking tickets and they say you got to pay $20 and they're saying you got to pay Federal Reserve notes, what should you tell them? Well, according to the Constitution and according to these several cases, paper is not money, so you can't ask me to pay you in anything because I can't pay you with something that has no value. That's how you can defend yourself. Which, if you go to riseofthemoors.org, click on public information, scroll down to the bottom, you'll see felony charges dismissed. They try to say that this woman stole money, but there hasn't been any money since 1913, which was our argument, and the case was dismissed. Yes.
Whomever has, let's say, or multi-millionaires that dollar bills or $100 bills in their accounts, they would have to equally have that same way to go into treasury somewhere. Those are
So
bills.
this is where, that was a great question, because this is where we're going to again, subsection 411 of the United States Code, which reads Federal Reserve notes to be issued at the discretion of the Federal Reserve Board for purpose of making advances to the Federal Reserve banks. The said notes shall be the obligations of the United States. So if you have a bunch of Federal Reserve notes, you're supposed to go to the Federal Reserve Bank and get gold in exchange, because they promised to pay us. That's their obligation. Get it?
Yeah, probably the reason why people don't carry massive amount of gold is not safe. It's also heavy too, so that's why you're going to give up a promissory note to pay. Because you,
but now you're talking about gold.
Have gold in your accounts.
Yeah, but now you're talking about gold and silver certificates certified that there's gold somewhere. That's what you're talking about.
So they took all that gold, so that means they're still giving them a promissory note without anything backing it.
Yes, which means it has no value. Yeah. Exactly. And then this is House Resolution 5404, which I'm not going to read because I said it about 1,000 times already. Over the past like 2 months.
Somebody said the case was dismissed because of you. You break down everything so
No, stop.
you can comprehend.
The case was not dismissed because of me. It's because of what you did. You did all the work. You went up there or whatever you did. You wrote whatever you wrote. You said whatever you said. Your energy got it dismissed, not me. So congratulations. Let me read it again because I didn't hear the rest of the message.
He's saying you break it down easy so you can comprehend. If you want to post your case, or if you want us to post it online, you can either email it to Rise of the Moors or send it to the Temple at 23 Acorn Street in Providence, Rhode Island.
And or go to the courthouse, request Soco Courthouse, ask the clerk to give you a certified copy of the dismissal and then mail it here so we have hard copy proof on the record so we can show our people more than standing up everywhere. Why not you? More than getting cases dismissed left and right. Why not you?
Yep, it encourages other Moors and it gives examples for other Moors dealing with the same issues.
Yep, that's called res judicata. Now, so that was dealing with payment. So now let's deal with fraud. This is some res judicata on fraud. A dispute is genuine if the evidence is such that a reasonable jury could return a verdict for the non-moving party. So this is just quotes that you can use to substantiate your arguments in law. So nothing is in an actual order. It's just I'm presenting the information so you know it exists. So then later, when you're typing your affidavit, like, dang, I know this case law I could use. Reference this. That's at least how I do my affidavit. The moving party bears the initial burden of establishing that there are no genuine issues of material facts, which it may accomplish by demonstrating that the non-moving party lacks evidence to support an essential element of its case. That's so if you want to issue or command the courts to do a summary judgment, send them that. You say, well, since the other party's not moving, and you have to base your summary judgment on the facts presented to you, and they're not presenting anything, you might want to make a judgment. What else are you going to do? Wait forever? Right? In response, the non-moving party must present significant probative evidence that will reveal that there is more than some metaphysical doubts as to the material facts. So they showed you spiritual and physical in one. Did they just not? The thought, metaphysical, spiritual. The material, physical plane, facts, matter, density. Look at that case. Moore versus Philip. Moore versus Philip Morris. Imagine that. The mere existence of a, someone help me with this word.
What is it?
Scintilla. Scintilla?
Yeah.
What does that mean? What's scintilla mean?
Hold on, I'll look it up. The computer.
Scintilla. Hey, Morris, you don't have to learn. You don't have to know everything. You just have to know how to figure out what you don't know.
A tiny trace or spark of specified quality or feeling.
So a small amount.
Yeah.
The mere existence of a small amount of evidence in support of the non-movement position will not suffice to avoid summary judgment. In the federal mail fraud statute, Title 18, subsection 1341, prohibits the use of the mails to execute any scheme or artifice to defraud or for obtaining money or property by means of false or fraudulent pretenses, representations, or promises. United States Supreme Court, McNally versus the United States, which is telling you, this is from 1987, which is telling you if the banks are foreclosing on your estate, which is really estate embezzlement, and they're sending you stuff in the mail, which is what they do, since it's estate embezzlement and it's a fraud because they're claiming you didn't pay them when they gave you nothing of real value, which is fraud, that foreclosure has to stop. And you can sue them for fraud via the mail. You track? Same thing with so-called student loans, so-called debt, so-called credit cards, so-called debt. All this stuff. Hit them with mail fraud. The words to defraud commonly refer to wronging one in his property rights by dishonest methods. United States Supreme Court. United States Code, Title 18, subsection 13441 deals with frauds and swindles. So we're trying to sue these people, which I recommend all Moors go to federal court physically and make your presence known. And sue those who injure you. Now, I'm not telling you that's going to go perfect every single time. That's not what I'm saying. Right? But when you shoot a shotgun, all you need is a few fatal pellets. And whatever you're shooting at is going to fall. Get that? Because remember, not every single European is our enemy. Some Europeans actually like their job as so-called judges and clerks, and they'll be willing to help you. You just gotta find it. The only way to do that is to start suing these people. Right? Do we need a break? Yes? Let's vote. Since we are a sovereign, theocratic constitutional government. All in favor for 10-minute break, 5-minute break, raise your hand. All opposed, raise your hand. So no one's opposed. All right, we'll take 5 minutes. Be back 2:21. No. Again, look up Title 18, subsection 1341, frauds and swindles, and then Title 18, Chapter 47, fraud and false statements, etc. Subsection 1001, statements or entries generally. Look this up. So now, here's another case dealing with fraud. Durland versus the United States. The first case in which this court construed the meaning of the phrase any scheme or artifice to defraud held that the phrase is to be interpreted broadly insofar as property rights are concerned, but did not indicate that the statute had a more extensive reach. The court rejected the argument that the statute reaches only such cases as at common law would within the definition of false pretenses, in order to make out which there must be a misrepresentation as to some existing fact, and not to merely promise as to the future. Instead, it construed the statute to include everything designed to defraud by representations as to the past or present, or suggestions and promises as to the future, meaning anything, which means, they just showed you how it applies to the past, present, and future, correct? Which means fraud has no what? Limitations. So if they defrauded you out of a mortgage 17 years ago, and you just found out this information today, guess what you can do? Sue. Anything, and not just a mortgage, not just a foreclosure, not just student loans or parking ticket. They arrested you for 17 years of your life. Charged up for fraud. Anything. Yes, anything. I know someone's going to ask. Yes, you can use that for anything. Yes. Because people will ask. Because they do.
Any bill that's
anything.
Mail. Let's start with the first bill.
Yep.
They're asking you for money that's from.
Yep.
So just start from there.
Yep.
Because that's the only way you can get your attention. Send you something of a contract.
It's mail fraud. And just fraud, period. Because it's designed to swindle you out of something you don't even have. Right? Accordingly, the defendant's use of the mail to sell bonds, which he did not intend to honor, was within the statute. So they're selling or they're giving Federal Reserve notes which they intend not to honor, which means that's what? Fraud. The court explained that it was with the purpose of protecting the public against all such initial efforts to spoil and to prevent the post office from being used to carry them into effect that this statute was passed. United States Supreme Court versus McNally versus the United States. The mail fraud statute criminalized schemes or artifices to defraud or for obtaining money or property by means of false or fraudulent pretenses, representations, or promises. The limitation of the court adopts today shows no fidelity to Congress' words or purpose. The court recognizes that the money or property limitation of the second clause may not actually apply to prosecutions under the first clause. But where else can such a limitation be derived from? A few examples of these types of frauds that have been prosecuted under the intelligible right. After reading a while, you just start stumbling. Theory reveals that these schemes constitute fraud in every sense of the word, and that the intangible right theory plays an indispensable role in effectuating Congress's goal of preserving the integrity of the postal service. In Has versus Henkel, the court, dealing with the predecessor to 371, rejected the argument that there could be no conspiracy to defraud in the absence of completed monetary or property loss. So they're saying the intent itself is fraud. It doesn't matter if they actually did it, it's the attempt that also constitutes fraud. So if they try to foreclose on your property and then they stop, well, you just attempted, so that's fraudulent. I'm going to charge you still. Right?
Did you say sue them?
Yes, I did say sue them.
You didn't say lien them because it.
Well, now, let me clarify that.
That's
A suit, an actual claim in court is a lien. What's a lien? A lien is a claim
Claim of interest.
of interest in something until a debt is satisfied.
so.
Right? So when you file your claim, that's a bond that connects them. Your interest in your right is against them. And then in your argument, you're requesting some type of remedy or recourse, which is the debt that needs to be satisfied.
Yeah, lawsuit.
Yes.
Not paperwork. And
Not paperwork just being sent to someone and filed on the county.
yeah.
Sent to an actual establishment with human beings in them that have an obligation to enforce something.
Give me something of
Yes.
interest. That you
Because
agree
Moors,
on.
so since Moors don't want to have military because we want to play games, we can't say, all right, this Moorish court is open. We're sending an indictment to so-and-so and have our mufti go serve that person. And then if they don't appear, we issue a warrant and have that mufti arrest them. Since we don't want to do that, because we're playing games,
People think.
let's just have the United States Marshals do it. Well, Jamal, how do you get to the United States Marshals to arrest people? Oh, you go to court, file a claim, and they'll issue an indictment. If they don't show up, then they'll do exactly what they do to us.
Physically.
Yeah. That's their job.
Not mention the same paperwork.
Yeah, not just say, here's a piece of paper, and that's it. No, they arrest us. So if there's enough charges, right? If there's enough charges against these people, that affects their what? Their credibility, which is their ability to do what? To do business. Which means they'll eventually what? Shut down.
Are you gonna release this pile of information you put together?
Yes. Is that complicated? No, it's not.
Like if there's a counselor court, let's say I'm a student, and I went to law school, I went to graduate school, blah, blah, and graduated with a amount of debt, and I found this information I wanted to name them via lawsuit in federal court, via paperwork, and as a remedy. And in other instances, they're not just saying that I'm going to send them paperwork saying, I know that you're fraudulent, and not that you take the action. Contract court, federal court.
Well, now you can only do that if you establish your status. Because if you're trying to do that as a U.S. citizen,
Yeah.
well, then as a U.S. citizen, since the United States is a corporation and not a country, you're agreeing to be their property, so they can say, well, you can't sue us. So you're agreeing to
the
the
knowledge
knowledge.
of having this information, anyone knowing this information, they should be able to make the difference between suing someone in court versus saying that a piece of paper saying that we're aware of your fraudulent business that you're doing.
Yeah. That doesn't mean anything.
You're just stating facts
Yeah.
of what they're doing, but you're not asking for remedy via system,
legal process,
which is lawful legal way to.
Yeah, right. Because if we keep saying, well, they're de facto courts, which means they exist in fact, why are we not utilizing them? Because if there's enough, right, imagine this. Imagine there's 500 Moors. Downtown Kennedy Plaza at District Court. 500. You think they're going to say no to us?
And the only reason I said that because there's a lot of like young Moors who are trying their best, thinking this is the American dream. Let me now go and become like let me go to the historically black colleges because I want to be with.
Yeah, they're going to Morehouse.
Morehouse or Howard or Atlanta, whatever all those schools are. They're not we're going to get all these debts now. How is the counselor or any of these establishments that are supposed to teach our people, which are the temple, hey, this is all this debt you're going to do. Now let's teach you about that now. And we're a forestry engineer. That's kind of funding system that they're saying. Open funding for energy. Let's have these intelligent or people
also argue.
Leadership were not giving anything of value, which is just words.
Which is a waste of time.
Hot air, no pointed energy.
It's a waste of time. Yes.
So myself, I'm not I myself, I'm really usually happy. So what I did is I have placed several meetings, individuals as well as physical structures according to the paperwork is provided on So those three addresses that we're supposed to be sending our rooms to. I actually was in Washington D.C. yesterday, and one of the places actually closed. So I was trying to do it. But I was at the address of 101 4th Street, roll number 27, and that location is two different. The quarter deep is upstairs, and I think IRS. I was actually at the IRS yesterday, and so when I went into inquiring about this, but for paperwork, that probably everybody's sending over, so we were told they were sending paperwork and names, and they were becoming overwhelmed. What we were told. I don't conference call these papers.
Yeah, of course.
So again, we want
To make you feel good.
we want to believe it. I'm usually very patient to kind of see, the result of things. But yeah, when you're in the battle, and we
Our people are delusional.
well,
Those people are saying they're becoming overwhelmed with papers, as if when they send us bills in the mail, which is paper, right?
right.
When we have a lot of it, what do? We shred it.
Well,
So how can you be overwhelmed with papers?
Well, that's interesting.
Oh yeah.
Like literally,
I'm just saying.
I spoke to 3 people in the
Yeah, that these people are saying lean them. They're overwhelmed.
Yeah, I went to that location because that's the location that I was sitting on. So I actually brought coffee or noodles. First of all, they said that, well, it goes to the neighborhood. So I said to them, rule number 270, I get it, it's coming to the address, but it's coming to the room where I'm standing right now.
Yeah.
So I was asking him, can you tell me if you have any names on the record? So the lady said, well, we lean here. You get a link? Like, yeah. I said, well, we don't record anything except for lock and block here. We have lock and block, so we can look you up. See if any of your lien paperwork is in the record. And of course, I didn't have a lock and block, but it's not how.
That's not how you're being instructed to do these things.
Right. So on the 3 people that I spoke to, and we were just at 5:30, so it was kind of close. So they wanted to help me, really. But basically, it was like, I don't know what you're talking about, and I said, so, and I didn't want to say, okay, I'm more, and I think I didn't want to go that route.
You didn't want to play this, well, I'm more, so I'm noble, you gotta listen to me now.
I didn't want to do that, I was just very stupid, and I said, I want to know what the paper is. I said, back, okay, how about this? Short play is email address. This is another location. This same location, but the email. You send the email first and then physically. So you're saying that you have no record. And said, well, as a director. And I said, okay, again. So in my mind, I'm thinking, if anybody in that office, in this IRS office, you or many things are coming to boards, why are they saying, it's so much.
Let me show you, can I show you something? Let me show you something. Imagine I'm trying to lean you, right? Here's my lean, which is a piece of paper, right? Does that in your hand prevent you from doing anything? Does that now force you to pay me what I'm demanding? Does it? No, it doesn't. But now imagine this, right? Imagine this. We're a court and we're organized, right? I'm the judge or whatever, blah, 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 right? You come to me with this lien, and I say, okay, you're a Moor. It seems pretty sufficient, blah, 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 blah. You file a claim with the court. All right, it seems that you have something valid here. It seems that you were violated here based on the information that you're presenting to me. Since you presented this to me, and I'm a judge, and this is an organized thing, right? All right, I'm going to issue an indictment. You're going to be my mufti. Send this indictment to the defendant. On the indictment, it's going to say, you know, you are bringing charges of A, B, C, D, E, F, G against her, right? You're the marshal. Since you indicted her, we have, you know, codes and how we do things. You're going to give me, the judge, the proof that you, in fact, indicted this person. That's going to be recorded on the court records, right? I'm going to have the clerk, hey clerk, please give this proof of indictment to the plaintiff. You're going to do your job, send it in the mail, give it to you. Due process, right? Then the date shows up, right? Because on the indictment has a date of when you're going to come to your hearing, right? With your arraignment. She don't show up, right? Well, you show up because you're bringing charges against her. And you have to be present according to the Constitution, right? Because she has the right to face her accuser. So you're there, she's not there, although we got the indictment, we got the proof that she was indicted because the marshal gave it to her, right? You're an officer of the court, I'm going with your word, right? You actually showed up because you have a claim. I know my secretary did her job, right? All right, since the defendant didn't show up, we're going to issue a warrant because she has to answer for these accusations being brought against her. So now, since we're an organization, we got marshals on us, all right, so she didn't show up, here's my order, here's a warrant, because you're bringing charges, right? So we're trying to bring someone to justice, and I'm a judge, justice. All right, here's a warrant, stamp, boom, here's her address, go ahead and arrest her. So the papers are used to relay an order. Then the human beings enforce said order. That's how it works. So again, you tell me and tell our people how a piece of paper is going to change their lives. That entire process had you doing an action, me doing something, you doing something, you doing something, and you doing something. It had human beings involved doing something. Not, well, here's this piece of paper. Oh, yeah, you owe me billions of dollars now because I'm a Moor and I said so. That's not how that works.
It's just a communication.
So we're going to continue to allow these people to lie to our people. And that's our fault. I'm sorry, you had something to say?
It's just a communication tool. It's just to get everybody on the same page about what you intend to do.
I give my documents back.
So sometimes
Is everyone clear on that process? Yes or no? Please give me a verbal yes if it's yes.
Yes.
And a no if it's no.
Online said exactly actions.
So that requires a lien will subsequently require an action that someone has to take. Correct? And if that action is not taken, there needs to be a subsequent action, correct? Which means there has to be someone else in place to enforce that. Now, if you don't go to a so-called court and don't get them to move, then who's going to enforce that lien? Especially since the Moorish nation wants to play around and say, well, we don't have to lift the finger because we're ancient and the ancestors said we got this and this is the divine and the spiritual movement, so we don't have to do nothing on the physical plane because that's more self-thinking. And where are we going to go? Nowhere.
Somebody's asking, is this true that liens are good, but isn't a maritime lien more powerful to put on any party that's not doing what's right?
I think if we did like a 10-minute video of us actually leaning, just put that image in your head.
Yeah.
This is a lean. You want to not do it? Do it again? Let's do it again. Yes. We're giving this like this long.
All right. Yeah.
Somebody asked if we're a
Someone has to go to work.
501c3.
All right, let's continue with important Let's go back to what's important. Now, let me just address 501c3. In the 501c3 requirements, you can't participate in politics. All right, isn't that a requirement? According to the IRS, right?
Mhm.
When we teach Moors about their nationality, what is that correct? Their what? Their blank status. What's in front of them?
Political status.
Political. That would mean you're dealing with politics, right? So Rise of the Moors is a nonprofit civic organization and they deal with politics. Can they be a 501c3 organization according to the rules and requirements of the IRS? Answer is what? No. Okay, great. Now, racism is not a crime. See the United States Court of Appeals, 6th Circuit. Eric Peoples, Perry Anderson, Vincent Fields, etc., etc., etc. It's called Peoples versus the City of Detroit. Peeples versus City of Detroit. This was decided June 1st, 2018. So is this old stuff? No, it's not. Herein, the plaintiffs allege that they were laid off at the same time because of either racial or national origin discrimination. But as is clear, plaintiffs do not allege the exact same claims. Plaintiff Rivera alleges national origin discrimination, and the remaining plaintiffs allege race discrimination. Therefore, the question is whether national origin and race discrimination are substantially related, meaning is racism a crime? If so, the plaintiffs would be able to piggyback on Plaintiff Rivera's timely filed charge under the single filing rule, which allows both untimely or never filed claims to be joined. Class action suit. Plaintiffs cite no case law, nor do they argue that discrimination claims for national origin are substantially similar to those of racial discrimination claims of a different group. And doesn't the accuser bear the burden of proof? While there may be overlap between the concepts of race and national origin themselves, see Village of Freeport versus this person, there is no case law to support the application of the single filing rule between two distinct groups. Is everyone clear on that so far? Great. When I first read it, I was like, wow, this makes total sense. Therefore, we find that the remaining plaintiffs are unable to piggyback on Plaintiff Rivera's charge. The city was placed on notice that Rivera and others similarly situated were alleging discrimination in the layoff process, but only of claims involving national origin, because your nationality is what determines which rights you have, which rights you can enforce, and which laws don't and do apply to you. This finding comports with the goals of the notice requirement to put the employer on notice and allow the EEOC to consolidate claims that are shared by more than one plaintiff. So in that case of 2018, they showed you that if you do not have a nationality, then you have no standing at law, period. Any questions on that? Again, it's Peoples, Peeples, versus the City of Detroit, 344. You can find it at caselaw.findlaw.com. Any questions? And again, you can request said case from the Library of Congress, which is telling you its congressional record, which is telling you that this is a real case, this was a real decision, these are real human beings that are being affected. And with that, I'll wrap up Judicata. Although there's more information in here. Any questions?
Where and when can we find this document published?
You will be able to find it on riseofthemoors.org as soon as I make it available. But for the record, this is an ever-changing document because I'm always studying and I'm always adding things to it. So once you get the document, there's links to where I find this stuff, like caselaw.findlaw.com. So you have to search in different cases and do your own research to add on to your documents. So you're getting research that I've put together just from studying from, on my own.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Any other issues that need to be clear besides linking?
Oh, there was an issue that came up in class. You need a new laptop.
Any real issues?
All right.
I was jealous of my laptop's favorability. This has more camera time than both of you. Go through anything that you think more to be clear on. You'd like to address. Like, such as.
Okay.
Going to court,
In what context?
showing up.
In what context?
You know how they keep showing up?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Let's talk about that. I'm going to stand by the court. So, when Moore's challenge jurisdiction, we say you don't have personal jurisdiction over me, right? Because according to stare decisis, res judicata, which I read, this part two, the courts must prove that they have jurisdiction, correct? So why would you go to a court, right? Hold on, let me just set this. Let me set the stage, right?
Please.
I summon you to court, right? And I'm European. I have to skin. I'm from the United States, right? I summon you to court, so you got to wear those huge entire shoes, right? So now you got to come to court, right? Then you come and say, well, you're taking me to criminal court. You're claiming that this is a criminal court. In order for a crime to exist, there must be an injured party. Since there's no injured party, you lack jurisdiction, right? And I say, well, your shoe is still tired. Wrong. Right? Come to another hearing on this date. Boom, 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 boom. Right? And then you show up again.
You're claiming.
Hold on. And then you show up again. Well, you don't have jurisdiction, so I gotta answer to you. Well, your shoes are still tied wrong, so you gotta pay this fine. Right? Come to this trial date 3 weeks in advance. And you show up again. Who's wrong? Why? Because the law is the courts must have on the record proof of jurisdiction.
And you're agreeing to the straw man.
But you keep showing up. They still improve it.
Talking about
When you
how.
read the definition of appearance and special appearance in the law group, an appearance is submitting to the jurisdiction that you agree. A special appearance is when you go there to challenge jurisdiction. So if I summon you to my local court, you say, no, prove that I did anything wrong, and I don't, you don't have to keep showing up. Get it? Because I didn't prove anything.
That's an
Get it?
example.
No, they do. That's exactly what they do. They'll say, all right, well, we're going to have to take you to state eval to see if you're mentally competent or not. And then our dumbass will agree to the psyche evaluation from these people that we just said don't have jurisdiction over us. So now who's wrong? And then we'll be like, these Europeans are de facto. They don't have jurisdiction. And this is really our land. And I have the right to travel. But then what will we do? We'll say, hey, United States, can I get a passport? I'm going to go leave my homeland that's occupied by you because I have more important matters to take care of. How does that make sense? So your home is occupied, right? You want to go on a vacation. Which, when you read nationality in the law book, they'll say the terms you have allegiance to, right? In the law book. But when you read the United States codes on passports, it says no passport shall be issued unless said person has allegiance to the United States. So, who is your allegiance to? Now, granted, I get it. We're under occupation. But again, if your home is colonized, what do you need to go overseas for? If you don't have a house to live in, why would you go to the club? Right? So if your home is colonized, why are you going on vacation? I just showed you we're under silent weapons or silent wars, but you're going on vacation. Please. And then our people be like, yeah, you just get a passport for the second form of ID. But you just give them jurisdiction because you have allegiance to them, because that's their laws. It's not my opinion. Right? Secondly, according to United States Codes, Title 18, subsection 1028, D3, they have to recognize any and all IDs that we create as a people, according to international law. So how about you just create a second form of ID, which your nationality card and your name correction papers both serve as IDs. So if you need a second form, show your name correction. But Jamal, I really want to leave the country. Well, if you want to leave while your land's colonized, then you might want to submit to their rules. Don't get mad at me because you're submitting to their rules. I have no personal opinion on if you get a passport or not. I just know what the law is. You have the right to contract. So if you want to get a U.S. passport, you can. But don't act like that don't mean you have allegiance to the United States, because that's exactly what it means. And don't act like if they find you with that, they're not going to say, well, you're a U.S. citizen, so now we got jurisdiction over you, since your name is on every agreement. And since you did it consciously, they have the right to enforce that. Is that or is that not true? Now, what does my personal opinion on if you do that matter at all? It doesn't. Right? If I'm handing out Jamal passports and I'm the Jamal enforcing authority, if I see you with one, I'm going to enforce my law on you because you have it. Right? Isn't that how it works? You then can't get mad because I'm doing it. Right? But what should make you upset is that if you have your own ID and I'm not recognizing it, that should make you upset. Not them enforcing their laws on you when you agree. Any other questions?
Somebody online asked, so if you don't show up, then you have a warrant.
No, the strong man has a warrant. Any other questions? Oh, so you enforce the law too.
She took it and she just moved the information down.
Just like when I go to federal court on my mortgage ID, here you go. Put my stuff on the thing, go in, and I proceed.
You walking like that?
Yeah, I walk in. Alright, so let's address the straw man issue. The straw man is a fake man. It is a homonym. It is a name that sounds the same as yours, but it is not you. So you understand that separation in your mind. Moors have created the name correction papers that says, I am a free national name here. I was misidentified as this. So since you were misidentified as that, that means you are not that name. And you were never that person. Right? So when they issue warrants, they put it on that straw man. So you can't say, well, they put a warrant on a straw man, which is me. Because now you're just agreeing. Which undoes the name correction papers. Because the name correction is saying you don't have personal jurisdiction. But if you agree to be the straw man, you're stepping back into their jurisdiction. So you can't have a free national name. They put a warrant on a straw man and then think, I have a warrant. Because now you're agreeing to be that name. Which they needed you to think you were in your mind in order for them to have jurisdiction. So make the separation in your mind. Which then you'll start to see, oh, we do need a military because they're physically taking our bodies, although I made the separation in my mind. Which then leaves you, okay, since they're united against us, we should probably unite with each other, do business with each other, and then protect ourselves if necessary. Not just uniting for the purpose of war. It's uniting to protect each other if necessary. That's what that's for.
Can I also point out, when we went to court for Tuesday's case,
They didn't touch no one.
there was a warrant and they didn't touch anybody because there was 30 of us, well, over 30 of us. So they had to
And
deal with.
they were armed, we weren't, they still didn't touch us. So since we're so spiritual and connected to the ancestors, we're the African indigenous, top time, and we're the gods of the earth, why are we afraid of these Europeans? And why are we afraid to unify? And why are we afraid to fight back? Because you get the king of the city, Aboriginal, top time, you're European, Blackwood, and I was here before the Europeans, why are you afraid of them? If you got all ancestors behind you, why are you afraid of one European? I was asking a question. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
So, I'm going to
I'll show you one.
the lean on the
I'll show
mic.
you a good one.
So just say for instance.
This is the best thing I've ever heard in my life.
So just with regard,
Yeah.
let's say, you know, how, with the lean, kind of what was asked in the
Okay,
leadership.
let me, good.
Like, oh, it's a leadership lean.
So there are certain Moors
Mhm.
telling other Moors to lean in a straw man because it makes it so you can't get arrested. They made that claim. On record, they made that claim. Those same people that claim that same body of people that claim that, one of those persons was arrested. So that should show you that that doesn't do that. Right? Now, let's say this is the birth certificate with straw name on it, right? And you do a name correction paper and say, you're not it, correct? If you already said you're not it, how would you possibly put a lien on it? And now that's going to stop you from being arrested. If you already said that's not me. So what does that do? It wastes your time. It puts you through a process. So via that process, you think, well, since I did A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and I jumped through a fire hoop, now I'm good. It's to get your mind to think that it works. When I can show you this video footage of me being arrested in the so-called courtroom, and I got let out 10 minutes later, hence I'm right here. Didn't leave no straw on my shoe. In fact, this video footage of me in a car, them smashing my window, didn't leave no nothing. I'm right here. Get it? It's diversion. Because remember, the foundation of this movement is the minds of the people. And what did the Rex 84 say? Confusion means profit. So keep the people confused. Waste their time. Because what they do not want, what they do not want is for us, in numbers, in the courtroom, challenging them. How do you know, Jamal? Because I've been to the courtroom in numbers with Moors challenging them. Guess what they do? This is what they do in the courtroom. Because they know this defense is coming. Blah, 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 magistrate, right? Oh, we're going to call for a recess. Court opens up at 9. It's 9:30. We're gonna call for a recess. Right? Take an hour. Trying to weed out the crowd. You come back in an hour. You still see, oh, there's more than that. All right, well, do that thing. 20 minutes go by. Oh, we're gonna call for another recess. This time it's like 5 o'clock. Court closes at 4:30. But this time it's later in the day because they're trying to make it so Moors aren't there. They're trying to make it so the people that they're robbing, those who are incompetent, are no longer in the crowd because they know once we wear this, we're speaking truth, facts, and law, and that issue has to be dismissed. So to avoid their child waking up, they've set us last, which is them telling you, we don't want your people to know what you're about to say. because that ruins the game. Because our primary objective, which is what they said, is for them to consent to everything. So don't teach them how to fight back. So what we're going to do is we'll deal with you last. So all these people don't see me.
They won't even admit they got the documents until you start reading them, and then they say, "Oh yeah, we got it." So you don't read it.
Yeah, and we're telling you because we've been there's pictures of her and I in court talking. Oh, how are we going to figure this out? In court, behind enemy lines, in the European space like this. We ain't scared, which is exactly what they don't want. So why are you not going to their face saying, what'd you say? Because now they risk being punched in the face. No one's being punched in the face. You know what I mean? They want you to be Twitter thugs. Just send me writs. Just send me paperwork. Right? Now, let's do this.
That's what it is.
Let's do this.
Come on, mother, send your red.
Let's do this.
Protect the nation, mother.
Let's say I loan you something, right? Well, you're gonna pay me back on Thursday, right? All right, cool. Thursday comes. I get full of my last. I'm broke now. Let me send her a letter. So I send you a letter. You said you was gonna come pay me back on Thursday, right? I'm sending you a letter. I act like I'm sending it. I put it in the mail, right? She gets it in the mail. It says you said you were gonna pay me on Thursday and you didn't. I want my money back in 2 weeks. I wait 2 weeks. She still didn't give me my money. Let me send her another letter. Put it in the mail, right? She gets it. Here's another letter saying, well, you said you were going to pay me back, right? Then I started thinking, wait a minute. She's not responding to my letters. Maybe I should go to her house and demand what's mine. Hey, Piccolo, did I give you some money? Give me my money back. So now she's confronted with an actual human being who's upset and might punch her in the face for their money back. So she'd be more inclined to pay me back. That's nature. That's law. That's nature. And let's say, oh, these are your brothers. Oh, I'll be back.
That's a real name.
I get 20 of my Moors. Come over here. Come on. No, this is the only money. So now there's an equal and opposite force. Now this doesn't have to go. Now you're on my side. All right, cool. You owe me money. All right, well, give me something. Something's better than nothing. Give me that. That's remedy. That's remedy. We good? They don't have to be violent. You get it? You see how the paperwork didn't do anything? Get it?
So you can only on capital in lowercase.
You can file a lien, prick your thumb, put your real blood on it, and still it's going to require human action. Which didn't the Bible say where there's unity, there's strength. Strength to do what? I don't know, enforce law maybe. That's a $2 funds. Oh, just file a lien, without the finger. Dumb. That's all we do. Are we clear? The laughter tells me that we're clear. Any other questions? Now, I'm not insulting anyone's intelligence. I'm just saying that's what it is.
That was quite discouraging. Just to be in that office. Low leaves. Somebody would have said, yeah,
You got this file paperwork.
None of those people. That was real. 270 I was in, and one that night.
Just telling you what. It ain't working. Let me tell you what these people fear. Our unity. What else do they fear? Our unity directed at them, demanding remedy. Not marching, praying, staring at the door saying, you're going to give us stuff. And we never go in to get it. It's like in a scenario where I loaned her something. She wasn't answering my messages until I showed up. Right? That's common sense. Right?
On June the 21st.
Oh, yeah.
That is, perfect
Yeah.
example of the president, active
Yeah.
when it comes to support.
So she's saying, for the record, June 21st,
June 21st,
Friday,
right?
summer solstice. We would like Moors to be here. FESDA. We're probably going to be at the State House to show our presence. Yes, we are unified. We're actually here to do things. Yeah, Providence, Rhode Island, 23 Acorn Street, 02903. We can meet up here and then go there.
The second example actually is very significant because it's the same as the friends month. And there's some flyers.
Yeah.
Some more information on other flyers. But the July 12th, the Long Island gathering panel that we were to
Yeah.
it's very significant because there's only more that's on that panel.
Well, Redfield knows he's a Moor. Rizza Islam knows he's a Moor.
So you're the only.
I'm the only one wearing a fez.
You don't know.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. So it's very significant that you're there, that as many more as possible to be out there supporting.
No, not necessarily supporting me,
Also,
but being in the room with our people who don't know their Moors. I'm going to be dropping civic bombs on them. They're going to have questions. You should be there to help answer those questions. Because I'm one person. Physically be there, not just spiritually be there, be there physically. So your spirit can speak to their spirit physically. Y'all can clear up these concepts. Yeah, wear face. Yeah. So I'm dragging this out so we don't have to end. So any questions? Any questions in the chat? Ask me anything.
Begging for a question.
All right. I'll wrap up on this note. And then the days we're going to
Oh, come on.
All right, your house, right? Your mailbox. All right. You got power going to your house. Right? Right? National Grid sends you something in the mail saying you owe us money because we're giving you energy. That's their lien. They're claiming that you owe a debt because of this service. Right?
Oh my God. Sorry. That's the diagram you drew.
Right? That's what they do, right? To us. And we're like, well, we're broke, so we can't afford it, so what do we do with that bill? We shred it. So then they'll do it 3 more times. Right? And what do we do with those 3 bills? We shred it. We're shredding their liens, right? But then, uh-oh, the National Grid truck shows up. That's a truck. National Grid shows up. Guy comes out of the car. This horns, right? I'm going to turn your power off. Right? He goes, turns your power off. Now you have no electricity. Then what do? Pay that bill. It took that physical person to do something to get you to react, not just the paperwork. And don't tell me that we don't do that. I see my mom do that often. You know what I'm saying? That's a lien. Useless until someone does something. Right? So now let's end it with the things we actually need. And then we'll end it for our program. Oh, there it is, right? I'm going to do my personal favorite for these cowards. These cowards hate caveat emptor. Moors are men, upright, independent, and fearless, who care for their loved ones and follow the prophet to a destiny which is not certain nor unknown. They are fortified by the impregnable doctrine built upon love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. It is therefore folly at its greatest heights for smelly culprits with their insidious plans to invade such a realm. They try, but their own bad planning brings down wrath upon their heads like the sword old Damocles had. Intrigue and scurrilous cunning find a difficult path to travel within the ranks of the Moors. This is so because the Moorish movement has been well planned by Prophet Noble Ali. whose latent powers are abundant, unknown, and may be called into action as a matter of defense at any moment. Prophet Noble Drew Ali knows the people within his ranks who are interested. They're the vanguard of the movement as the Moors hordes increase here in America. All of the Moors are active, not passive. A member's interest can only be in one direction. And having traveled over the roads years before, the Prophet knows where every member is along the road. A few feet below is another road where schemers work, where traders grin, and culprits bask in the sun. They think they're on the same road with true Moors, but the Moors are high above on a pinnacle where they might view the destructionists as they fall for the last time, and their bones bleach in the sultry midday sun. Hungry scavengers flying high, catch scent, devour and leave crying out, caveat emptor, cast out the dead carcass. The Moors high above see these plotters, purveyors the worst that exists, hurl themselves downward by their own works as hawks away. We proclaim at every meeting. Islam. I'm glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There's a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation that claim that I was only a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they're working every scheme that they can to disqualify me so that they may take charge of the situation. I notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that paid their divine respect to me in the movement will be remembered. That is why I'm calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without either prophet being head. It has been proven by my works, which I have performed in the past few years, Prophet Noble Drew Ali. To the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, this is the instructions from your divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Be faithful unto your forefathers' divine and national creed, that you will be blessed for your great deeds that you sow in the flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is on now. But the weak can comprehend it not. The end of time is drawing near, so says Allah to his divine prophet, I, Noble Drew Ali. That's why many hearts have been turned to stone. Many have eyes to see but cannot see, ears to hear but cannot hear. Least they would be confounded of their sins. These are trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving. They're trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid to cause confusion of the minds, in the minds of the ones that do believe. And where there's confusion, there's profit, right? But if you have the true love of Allah in the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but will sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your profit. Hence, if you see Congress said IRS is destroying families on the congressional record of January 3rd, 2019, and you agree to pay IRS, you agree. But the prophet is telling you, fear not what you hear or see. Fear not that they're threatening to arrest you. Paying them will destroy your life. Get it? Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest. And the ones that speak against your divine and national principles of your temples. Oh, if you teach that stuff, you're going to go to Guantanamo Bay. None of this stuff works. Meanwhile, Rising Moors got cases dismissed on the public record. Act accordingly. Don't pay them any mind. And Allah will bless you for your good work. Peace. Divine Prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Prophet ones or Muslims to be read in every meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical speeches while at work, in their homes, or on the streets. We're for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be a severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. So if we approach these Europeans with love, they don't rock with that. Okay, we'll address them with peace. What if they deny that too? Okay, well, once you affect our freedom, then justice must then take its course. Everyone's comprehending that. That doesn't just apply to the Europeans, though, either. That applies for anything and anyone. Because if I'm affecting your freedom, I'm beating on you, justice must then take its course, which means you can beat the fuck out of me back. Up to taking my life. That's self-defense. The prophet said that. We're not for violence, we're for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. But when these principles are violated, we will enforce justice. Because it's human nature to fight for your own survival. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings towards the temple or the prophet or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. Proofs in the pudding. I don't need to drop names. All true Moors will and must obey the law as laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. Hebrew, Negro, black, and colored. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Druli. And if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet, therefore, sending out the divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet and their temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Peace. Let me just read that last sentence one more time. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah. The prophet willed this into existence. He, just like every one of us, every single one of you, has a connection to Allah. And since his higher self was in alignment with that mission, he was able to manifest that. Right? His thoughts, or I should say his actions, matched his thoughts. His physical matched his spiritual. So if you think, I'm a Moor and I want to be free, your actions better prove that. And with that, I'll say peace.